J-Way.
I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless.
I'm gone.
Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck.
Give me
Into
that.
the trends. See a lead, be the band.
Good morning. Happy Mother's Day morning. We are here with another episode of Corner to Copa. I'm here with my dog, back after the hiatus. Coach, how you feeling today?
Feeling better. Spring is in the air, so are the allergies. But, you know, the Tigers, they're not just hot. They're staying at a very nice temperature right now, what we may like to call a slow roast, as this is a marathon.
Absolutely. And the Tigers, as it stands right now, are atop the major leagues, possibly, unless something crazy changed yesterday. But we came into the weekend as the top team in all the major leagues. Our current record is 23-14. I believe we had a 6-game winning streak, which was snapped yesterday, and we'll touch on that a little bit. But we still stand atop the AL Central at 2.5 games, and the top run differential in all of the major leagues as well. So the team had a strong West Coast trip. They took 3 or 4 from LA. They swept the Colorado Rockies, and so far we split with Texas, but looking good. I think that's the longest road trip of the entire that we'll have all year, but handle that quite gracefully. As far as the key guys, a lot of the bottom of the lineup is starting to perk up a little bit. Javi Baez hitting well over 300 right now. Colt Keith was on quite the burner. He's hit a couple moon shots. I mean, everybody got active in Colorado. You know, it was a close first game. I think we won 8-6, and it was a little rocky, if you will. But that was coming off of a rain delay, you know. But we got right back to work in that second game, and it got real spooky for Colorado. Granted, they are by far the worst team in baseball. I think they lost 20-0 yesterday, I think it was yesterday against the Padres. So that team is a hot mess. But yeah, outside of that, Sweeney has got his average up to a respectable number, and quietly, Andy Ibanez as well. He's hit 300 in the last 30 days, and like I said, the Colorado series did justice for a lot of our players, but as it stands right now, you don't have too many holes in that lineup right now. But what were your takeaways? Obviously, there's a lot of good to talk about, but we do have some concerns that we'll get into as well. But what were your takeaways from the West Coast trip as a whole?
I think you summarized it pretty well, man. I mean, they took care of business. You know, we kind of mentioned, I think 2-3 shows ago, roughly, first 2-3 weeks into the season, you know, Trout was hitting the ball well. Speaking of the Angels, since we've left, he has continued to slide. He's actually been on the IL with knee swelling. So now maybe we jinxed it on accident. You say, oh, he's healthy. He's playing. He's hitting bombs. He's hitting like $170. He's got 9 home runs, but this franchise continues to slide. So he kind of, you know, feel for the guy. You know, he decided to stay though, so he took the extension. So, but yeah, they took care of business against 2 underperforming teams right now. And to note, I think this Colorado start's got to be, at least in our lifetime, has to be at this point, if not among, it has to be the worst start we've seen in 40 some games have been played so far. I can't believe anyone would want to sign and play there right now. Other than the aesthetics of living out there in, you know, the Denver greater area, there's zero attractiveness to want to play for a club that's effectively a minor league team right now.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to win, yeah, there's nothing there. Just to give you guys some specific stats as far as some of the guys that are on a bit of a heater. Colt Keith in the last 7 days, and this is prior. I want to say this is all prior to the Texas Rangers series. 2 home runs, 6 RBIs. He was hitting 421 had a 421 average and hitting well over 1,000 on the OPS side of things. Javi Baez in the last 15 days, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, 390 average, a 1150 OPS, and then Trey Sweeney hitting 522 with 1 home run, 6 RBIs, and a OPS of 1237. That's the bottom of your lineup. We're not talking about Torque. We're not talking about Green. We're not even talking about Dylan Dingler, who, for all intents and purposes, actually he kind of struggled a little bit this week. But anything that he hasn't contributed on the offensive side, he's one of the better defensive catchers in all of baseball. He's actually got the fastest the fastest recorded throw amongst all catchers, and he's pretty much in the 90th percentile of all defensive categories, whether it's framing, caught steals, pop time. He has really rounded out as a catcher, and right now he's doing it on both sides. Deservedly so with the amount of, with our record at this current moment, but we got a lot of guys that are candidates for all-stars. I guess Sweeney and Dingler are eligible for Rookie of the Year. I've heard different things, but I know it's based upon the at-bats you had and the amount of games you played, but that would be another interesting conversation. But time to get to the concerns. What have you seen as far as things that have jumped out at you that are to be concerned about at this point?
I think the biggest one right now, just because now we've had another start, and it was yesterday. We're talking about Jack Flaherty here. I think this is the biggest one to address. He has really struggled the last 5 games. He's given up a lot. I mean, he gave up 4 long balls alone just yesterday, which pretty much put him in a hole that they couldn't get out of. They allowed 10 runs to the Rangers yesterday, which, they're on paper on offense. The team is capable of putting up runs just as good as any other club. So you really have to stay on your game. But yeah, it's not been very good. He has given up, I think, somewhere around 7 or 8 home runs over that time, and he's giving up a lot of earned runs as a result, a lot of it being extra base hits. He'll get off to a decent start, 2-3 innings. He'll go through the first time through the lineup, and then all of a sudden it's just like they are teeing off on him like it's batting practice. And we collectively, prior to the show, we were trying to look at some of the statistics, advanced analytics, if you will, about what maybe could be the issue. And we both kind of stumbled across the same thing, that on their put away percentages, his fastball has suddenly become an ineffective pitch for all intents and purposes. Guys he's either throwing it for the ball, or if it's in the zone, they are pounding it right now. So that's effectively made him a 2-pitch plus pitcher, with the fastball kind of being rendered, offset right now. So they're going to need him, because with Casey Mize, on the IL as of yesterday before the game, I'm not sure how many of you possibly caught that. I felt like it kind of went under the radar because it was right before the game started, but it was retroactive to Friday night. So he's got a hamstring issue. He's out for 15 days. So he'll miss 3 starts. So now Montero probably comes back into the mix, but we'll get back into that a little bit later. But yeah, Flaherty right now is the biggest one, with the other one probably coming to a close once Veerling gets, increasingly back to being activated here. It's probably Jace Young, his just inability to hit, and that bat is really the only hole, if you will, on that 25, 26-man roster.
Yeah, it's just to continue the point on Jack Flaherty. I mean, he's using his fastball 41% of the time. He's never had a lot of high velocity on the fastball. But to me, the way they were teeing off on it, it was almost like he was in some way tipping it, I mean, it's not gonna blow by anybody. So if you see it coming, I mean, it's not hard to miss. And I want to say the lefties were the ones. I mean, Jock Peterson, who had an awful year, probably one of the worst hitters in all the Major League Baseball. I mean, he was elated when he got a hold of that one because he's like, wow. I mean, because he's been playing for Tech. He's a brand new free agent. And that was his first home run. I think a couple off that Pepsi sign in right field. But I mean, not getting a lot of ground balls, and they're hitting them hard. So that's not a good recipe for success. They're hitting 309 versus the fastball. His whiff rate and his K rate is still, in the 90th percentile, but it's obviously not off the fastball, which is the pitch that you're using the most. So if you can find a way to lay off the curveball, lay off the slider, and just sit on a fastball, you're going to be all right. And it's, when the year started, I want to say in that LA Dodgers series, I think we said that Flaherty was probably the best looking pitcher leaving that series, but it's been pretty much downhill ever since that point. Jackson Jobe has held on. He's still 2-0. He's had quite a few, as you spoke about. He had probably his worst outing against Colorado in a game that we were able to just outslug them in a no decision for him. But yeah, he's kind of avoided the losses because I think he's been able to get some good run support. So he's 2-0. He's another guy. Now this is a different, his slider has an opponent batting average of 217. His opponent average on his fastball is 292, but he's throwing gas. So once again, they've been able to sit on it, despite the fact that he's probably throwing 97, 98. They've found a way to get around on it. The sinker as well, which we know is a variation of a fastball, opponent average of 273. So I think there's still a lot of faith that he'll get it together, and he'll find a way to get some more swing and miss out of in the number of pitches that he has, but hasn't taken a loss yet. So can't really sweat it too much. But let's get to the first break, and then we're going to talk about injuries. All right, Coach, take it away.
All right. I got only a few that were backdated from my absence, but I think really the only one to mention was that Veerling last weekend started his rehab with Toledo. We sent a video yesterday where he absolutely uncorked one to straightaway center, a 440 plus. So he looks like he is just days away from returning now that he's been with Toledo for a full week. We could see him in potentially as early as tomorrow with an announcement after today's game. But I fully expect him at the latest to be back within the next 7 calendar days by the end of next weekend, based on all things that we've been seeing and hearing on the reporting. Sawyer Gibson Long on the 7th was sent to Lakeland to begin a rehab stint down there. And man, he's been over 400 plus days where he hasn't pitched. So we kind of almost haven't really included him in conversations just because we haven't known, what, not just the timeline, but is he going to be the same type of pitcher? So that'll be an interesting thing to keep an eye on because it may mean that someone else's time in the bullpen currently may be coming to an end once he is healthy, but that might be a little bit later. So other than that, on the same date, Nito and Manuel Margot were activated. Maeda was DFA'd and then eventually given his unconditional waiver release outright, which I don't think he accepted the Toledo assignment. So I think that makes him a free agent unless he wishes to sign strictly with Toledo as a minor leaguer and not on the 40-man, obviously. But his days are numbered. On the 8th, they called up Montero as part of that doubleheader for Colorado in the rainout makeup, just because they're not really out that way again the rest of the year. Great start for him. Almost another complete game shutout against him. Would have been his second in 2 years. Beautiful 8 innings, 1 earned, 5 hits, 2 Ks, 3 walks, and 92 pitches. His last 2 games pitched better than his first couple of spot starts. 12 and a third, 9 hits, 2 earned, 5 walks, and strikeouts. 47 batters faced. They're going to need him now in the next couple weeks. Aside from that, same time they called up Brewer Hicklin, who had his major league first hit in the second game of that doubleheader. They also called up Chase Lee, who made an appearance. Alex Cobb on the 9th pitched in live batting practice. However, there was concern in his discomfort in covering first base when trying to move from the mound to first defensively to cover. So he does not look like he is going to be close, at least the next handful of weeks. So we can probably put that back on the back burner until June at this point. And Montero was then optioned, and Hickland as well, in favor of John Braba, who returned and made an appearance yesterday. And then obviously the news that we alluded to just recently, Casey Mize yesterday, retroactive to the 9th, is on the 15-day IL with a hamstring tug, as AJ put it. And corresponding with that move, they recalled relief pitcher Chase Lee back up to the parent team.
Yeah, Chase Lee I think he's been up and down as much as Montero as of recently. Yeah, outside that, the only thing that I can think of is they did remove Manuel Margot out of the 40-man roster. He elected to stay with the organization. He could have been a free agent, but he's decided to stay with the organization. So it looks like Malloy survives again, because initially Margot, I think they wanted a little bit more. They wanted an insurance center field option at the time, but obviously with Javi Baez playing like, modern day insert center fielder, no need for that at this current moment. But yeah, I think pretty much covers everything. But let's get right into the down on the farm. The return of Kevin McGonigal. He has made his first rehab start in Lakeland. He actually was playing alongside Bryce Rainier, insert the SpongeBob meme future. But he went 1 for 2 yesterday, which is good to see. There hasn't been a whole lot of news about Kevin McGonigal. They kind of been tight-lipped about that, but obviously he is back. Bryce Rainier continues to impress. Just the exit velocity on a lot of these pitches. He's quickly showing that power tool that has taken a little bit longer on Max Clark, but good to see out of Rainier. Speaking of Max Clark and power tool, he hit his first home run of the year on Friday. He's flashed all 5 tools on Friday. He also had a bunt single. I think they said he was home plate to first in 3.7 seconds. We all know that he's a great defensive center fielder and has a pretty good arm. So good to see him. I think he's hitting over 300 as well, and getting on base and looking good so far. Something to keep in mind, though, is whenever he makes that jump to Double-A, that's going to be the real indication of where he's at. Guys like Thayron Lorenzo have kind of hit that wall as he's made that transition. Granted, he's only 20. He's either 20 or 21, but he has struggled. He's struggled as he's made that move to Double-A, which not much not much of a concern at this point considering his age, but that's the real teller. It's going to be the same thing for Kevin McGonigal and some of these other guys that have shown flashes of success at the AA level. Outside of that, Briseño continues to hit for power. He had a nice snap throw from catcher to first base yesterday. Still don't know whether that's going to be his long-term position. He's a pretty tall dude, and the catching position kind of wears on you, especially the bigger guys. But as of now, he's done pretty good at the catcher position. As you talked about, Sawyer Gibson-Long made his first rehab start. He had a scoreless inning, and that was in Lakeland, like you said. Alex Cobb, you talked about that as well. He's not rehabilitating yet. That was batting practice.
Yeah, he threw live BP, and ironically, that pitch that he covered to first base was actually against Vierling.
Okay, yeah, you're right. That was the case. And then the last thing on my list, Matt Vierling. Well, not the last thing. Matt Vierling hit his second home run on a rehab stint, straightaway center field, 427 feet. I hope to see. He should be ready to return next week. I'm going to a game next week. He should probably play in that game. Max Anderson, though, he's a guy that was drafted in 2023, so not too long ago, a second-round pick. He is having an excellent year. Speaking of making that transition to Erie, he has made a seamless transition. He's hitting 324 right now with 5 home runs and 23 RBIs. He's a guy to pay attention to who could possibly be moved up to AAA. A couple of, when you look at our AAA middle infielders, guys like Riley Unroe, what is his name? Andrew Navigato. He's been struggling, mightily since he's left the spring. I could see Max Anderson making a move up to just see where he's at, and he's made a nice jump after just a mediocre first couple of years of action in the minor leagues. Also, a guy named Trey Cruz. He's also playing in Erie. He's playing the shortstop. He's got an average of 321 with 5 home runs and 17 RBIs. He's a little bit older. He's 26 years old, and he was drafted back in 2020. So this is kind of a make or break time for him as well, because he is a little bit older and doesn't have that same prestige as some of these other guys, but he's definitely a guy to pay attention to. But that pretty much covers everything down on the farm. Let's get to the next break and then see what we got on the other side of that. All right, Coach. Any news around the league to speak on?
Yeah, in terms of some national headlines, not too many. I know we talked about Trout just recently here. He's got 9 home runs, but he's got the knee issue. You kind of just wonder, is this guy ever going to be able to stay healthy? Aaron Judge right now is absolutely crushing the baseball. Easily by far the American League odds-on heavy MVP favorite. They're right up there, right behind Detroit. They're leading a sliding AL East right now as Baltimore continues to just free fall offensively. They may be taking a step back here this year, which I don't think anyone was really anticipating, considering how well they were last year, although they did lose some guys, including Santander in the division. But aside from that, AL Central's got 4 of the 5 teams that are 500 or better right now, and 3 of them, including Detroit, are among the hottest teams in terms of the last 10 games and winning streaks right now. Ironically, actually, it's the teams that are 8-10 in the last, or 8-2 in the last 10 games, which is the best mark, is Detroit, Kansas City, San Diego, and St. Louis. With ironically also the Cardinals and Twins having 7-game winning streaks during that time. So interesting collection of teams that are getting warm as the temperature does warm up outside. Pittsburgh fired their manager over the weekend, Shelton, longtime manager. This looks like there could be some internal clubhouse issues, some friction between, coaching staff and front office, with the highlighted note that we've mentioned before that franchise does not pay their players, even guys they draft and grow. So, sure, they brought back McCutcheon and whatnot, but I really feel like he's come back on a hometown team discount of sorts over his returns. It makes you wonder if Skeens and guys like that are even going to stick around. So
I don't wonder really, but
well, yeah, I mean, we've talked about it. Pittsburgh's a beautiful ballpark. The backdrop on the Allegheny River there is gorgeous. It's a very nice scene out there. So, it begs to differ what else is going on behind the scenes. But aside from that, that is pretty much it. The Padres own the best win percentage right now. We have the most wins. They played a few less games than us. And then just because it's coming up, the next series after today, Boston comes to town, and we can kind of put to bed the whole Alex Bregman thing in a loop. He is absolutely on fire right now. He is one of the best offensive hitters in the American League. He's batting .319 to .392 OBP, .581 slug, .974 OPS. He's got a 2.3 WAR, which I think is among the tops, just only behind Aaron Judge right now in the American League. Also has 9 home runs, 15 doubles, and he has 60 combined RBIs and runs. So no love lost for Bregman as he hums the first month and change of this spring.
Absolutely, and it's really kind of unfortunate that Pittsburgh kind of just has that steady theme of not paying their players, because they have some pretty polarizing young players between Skeens and O'Neal Cruz. Yeah, those are the two big ones at this current moment. But yeah. So as far as players kind of on that on the edge of being called down, obviously Matt Vierling is on his way back. Jake Rogers, well, the corresponding Jake Rogers move will be an easy one. You just send down Nito, but it's pretty much an obvious consensus that it'll probably be Jace Young being sent down in relation for Matt Vierling, you think?
100%. There's no, if Jace was hitting, I think it would be a much different conversation. You probably would have potentially 3 guys in the mix, alluding to maybe even 4, alluding with, as you mentioned earlier, Malloy surviving the round with Margot being taken off the 40-man. So, but yeah, that's my 1-to-1. I think that's 1,000% would be the corresponding move for Vierling.
Yeah, Jung's kind of been looking like an audit. When he comes up, it's kind of like, you kind of know where it's going. It was nice that he got a chance to start at third, with obviously his brother Josh playing. They were playing tic-tac-toe out there, which was
that was cool. Yeah.
Cool, but it was annoying because we were getting destroyed. But
it kind of reminded me of the Meat Brothers when they did that with the whole snacks at home plate. They left like peanut butter crackers. Benji and Yadier Molina.
Oh, the Molina
when Benji
brothers,
played for the Rays, they played a series in St. Louis, and Benji left him like a 2-pack stack of peanut butter crackers at home plate.
That's hilarious. But I have been really impressed with his defense. He's really rounding out as a good defensive, as a good defensive player. A major improvement from last year, which I could have anticipated because he was brand new to that position. But yeah, gotta hit a little bit more. I've also been impressed with Malloy. He's made a couple diving stabs out in the corner outfield, which is pretty encouraging as well. You said that there was 3 or 4 guys that could be in the mix. Who were you thinking of outside of Malloy and Young?
Well, I mean, you kind of hate to say it, but I mean, you look at, like Andy Ibanez, I think is a guy that would have potentially been in that conversation of 4 players. And purely because of the fact that like him, Vierling and McKinstry are all very similar super utility guys, but Zach's a switch. No, he's just a lefty, but he hits against both sides fairly well. Vierling obviously can play third just like Zach, but Vierling, I think, as we discussed offline over the weekend, that he is just a more rounded hitter in terms of power that Zach just doesn't have naturally. And Andy's pretty much restricted to hitting against left-handed pitchers. So based on that, what they bring to the table, in addition to playing different defensive positions, Andy would have been on the short list out of all three of those guys, which just based on that alone, I think would have put him in a fairly, considerable spot to be sent down.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, let's talk about you kind of alluded to a little bit, but let's talk about the upcoming games the Tigers have on the docket. So we got, of course, you said we have Boston coming up, which should be an interesting series. Did you touch on Devers at all? I know they've been having some.
I have not. Yeah, but if you want to kick that one off.
Yeah. So basically, obviously, Tristan Casas, what's his name? Yeah. So he just recently injured his knee, like a severe, out for the season type injury, running the first base. So now there is a gaping hole at first base. I'm not sure who's playing it right at this moment, but obviously Devers, it first started where he didn't want to move off a third in place of Bregman. And now in BDH, he obviously agreed to play to be the DH, and now they are interested in moving him to first, opening up that DH position. And I think he's pretty much come out and said that refused to do so, saying that, I don't know, they didn't give me enough time to prepare, yada yada yada, which is kind of wild because it's like, okay, we didn't expect our first baseman to blow his knee out and all that, but yeah, that's the big controversy right now. There's yet another move that he has is refusing to, or been vocal about his displeasure anyways, about having to move. And obviously he just signed a 10-year $300 million contract, so there's I won't say trade rumors, but I mean, got semi-trade rumors, the thought that they might be, that might be a distraction and all that. But at any rate, he went 4 for 4 yesterday. He's still, one of the better hitters in all of baseball. And it's not going to be easy to move that contract. I don't care how good you are, especially when you're kind of developing a reputation of, just to not be a team player, I guess, or not being flexible. But, what are your thoughts on that? I know we talked about, hey, what would our lineup look like? Because that's kind of still a bit of a hole, a little bit as far as the long-term option at third base. But, what are your overall thoughts on what's going on?
I mean, do we really want a player that's kind of like that? I mean, look,
we have one, and he's been great so far.
We'll compare it to the issue last year with Gleyber Torres in New York and refusing to move away despite their acquisition of Jazz Chisenholm. And Jazz this year has been off to a horrible start, although he is still a plus defender at multiple different positions. I understand his point of not wanting to move to first mid-season. Zero has never played there, has not practiced, whereas you look at the Tigers in the offseason, hey, Colt, we want to take, after they signed Gleyber, hey, we want to take you and Malloy and this offseason in spring. Let's, put you at first. We'll go through some drills. We'll kind of work and walk you through it, and then we'll see what becomes of it. That he didn't have that type of timeline to kind of prep for it. They basically wanted him to move off third for Bregman, like you said. Basically became a full-time DH. And now about a month and a half later, they want him to try first. Well, yeah, I think he's kind of thinking along the lines of, well, if I start really crapping the bed on the defensive end in a position I've never played, what is that going to do to my ability at the plate? Because he still has to hit to produce if he's struggling defensively. So I kind of get that, but it is just an awkward unfolding of how things have been happening. And then, of course, the marathon negotiation timeline with Bregman in general, the entire offseason pretty much. He didn't sign until well into spring training. So, which is why all of a sudden, when we signed Flaherty, like, what, a week later, 2 weeks into spring training, we signed Jack to the 1 year. So, sure, on paper, power-wise, it'd be great, third base, but I don't know if they're going to commit that kind of money to him because they would make him a third base. There's no way you're paying $30 million just for a DH over the next 9 years and change. It's just not happening. At least not with the low spend that we've had. But it's interesting to think about. But I think the biggest, I'll say this, it would be a good step to getting Skubal to stay for an extension during those negotiations. I think that would be a plus in that regard because they really haven't committed to anyone long-term in free agency in the last 2 years.
No, just Cole Keith,
And they're getting him at a great value. So that's not really overspending. Sure, they committed, they fully guaranteed it, but it's chump change.
Yeah, absolutely. But in the midst of that conversation, we're going to get to the other team that we are the other team that we're going to be facing. But we brought up Mr. Torres, who has been steady Eddie as of late, just quietly though, not really, not.
He's consistent. He's not hot. He's not cold. He's consistent.
Yes, very consistent, a great run producer. When you look at the numbers, he has really, he's just been a really good contact hitter. He's produced runs very well. He rarely strikes out, rarely swings and misses. And, it crossed my mind, and I saw some other people's talking about, he's really made a nice case for somebody that you might want to extend long-term. Obviously, he's looking for something. He bet on himself and could have signed a sizable deal. Could have signed a sizable deal this year, but decided to do a prove it deal with the Tigers. And thus far, he's been good.
He's a Boris guy, isn't
he? Is he?
I think he's a Scott Boris guy.
He could be. But yeah, he's got 4 home runs, 21 RBIs. He's already, and that's, minus a 15-day IL stint, but he's hitting 806 OPS wise. He's destroying left-handed pitching. He's hitting 375 against lefties, but not horrible against righties, hitting 247. When we look at the splits with runners in scoring position, he is hitting 333 runners on and 400 with runners in scoring position. Not bad. Let's look at his savant. Numbers. Because I really feel like he's somebody that's kind of gone under the radar and people haven't really talked about, but he's played respectable second base. I will see what the analytics say on that. Wow. Look at that. The expected batting average. And what's crazy is the hard hit rate hasn't been there, but he's just hit hard line drive, not hard line drives, but he's definitely placed it in the right spot, obviously. When you look at his ability to square up pitches, he's not chasing out of the zone, rarely swinging and missing. Yeah. And a 99 percentile K rate. That's a guy that when runners get on base, you don't have to worry. You can bet that he's going to make some contact and at least move them over, but more than likely hit them in. When you look at his defensive analytics, I guess not great defensively, but we kind of expected that. But yeah, overall, very pleased with him as a free agent addition. He's a veteran guy. He's remained constant, early on, and yeah. Any other things that you want to touch on as far as Gleyber Torres? I mean, I know you weren't the biggest fan of the signing, but What are your thoughts on Torres so far?
I mean, as a hitter, he's what you've needed at that 2-hole spot where he's played a lot this year.
Yeah.
I know we've had some different looks, sure, based on righty lefty, but with some of the injuries that we've had too, we've weirdly had, it for a while up until the other maybe earlier in the week after Zach cooled off, it was largely Gleiber 2 and McKinstry 3 kind of really setting the table for guys like Torkelson and Green, who over the last month, because both of them can't be hot at the same time, those two guys. It's been one of those two guys driving them in with Carey at the top, really bridging that 1 through 4, 1 through 5 part of the lineup, primarily against right-handers, because obviously lefties, you're going to see a little more Ibanez, you're going to see a little more Malloy, and Zach. So based on that, he's done a good job bridging, the top 1, 2 to the power guys and making sure that either there's guys on base or he's moving, Carey, who may have gotten a single, moving him over into scoring position for, your 3, 4, 5 hitters, which is a good recipe, for create some chaos, if you will. So defensively, I think he's held his own. I don't think there's anything to say he's been horrible or great. So there's no detriment there. So yeah, I mean, he's been as advertised so far. His power is taking a dip. I know we talked about that in the offseason when we signed him. I was a proponent, like, I don't think that's going to transfer very well to Comerica Park, but at the same time, if he's able to hit the gaps and keep getting some doubles, extra base hits, stretching singles into doubles at Comerica, I think that will bode well for him. But I think as you were looking at the splits too, he actually hits better on the road and by a significant margin. He's batting 286, but he's batting well over 300 on the road and only batting about 250, 255 at home, which is interesting. So maybe it's just getting acclimated to the new backdrop. That could be the case, but overall, he's delivered.
Yeah, you can tell that he's changed his approach. I mean, I don't think his whiff rates. I don't think he was always a pretty disciplined hitter, but I don't think his whiff rates have ever been that low. He's, like I said, he's making crazy contact, 99 percentile as far as strikeouts. Like, it's a rarity to see him swing and miss at all, let alone strike out. So I think he's just developed into more of a contact hitter, and it's proving to be beneficial because he's managed 20 RBIs, although he hasn't hit a ton of home runs. So on a nice pace right now. Obviously, he's getting a lot of opportunities because even the bottom of the lineup is producing right now. So, yeah,
we've talked to him and Baez.
There's something there. I mean, I definitely heard something on the telecast as far as it was funny because it was so basic as far as what the what he kind of, obviously he's a very disciplined hitter, so we could stand to see something rub off on Javi, who's in no way disciplined, but he's like, hey, take a pitch or two. They're intentionally not throwing you strikes, like obviously not throwing you strikes. So, unfortunately, it's funny because his walk rates are about even as they were before, even though in my mind, I feel like I've seen him walk a little bit more, but something has clicked there. It may just be him having that surgery and now being healthier, but you also see his bat speed slow down, yet he's still getting to those pitches a lot better. So, and it's funny because during the spring, when I got to see Torres and Baez, kind of batting back to back, they favor each other. Gleyber's a bigger guy, but their batting stance isn't too far off from each other. So, hey, if we got 3 more years or 2 and some change with Baez at this point, I'm not opposed to locking in Torres, especially because we don't have any. I mean, outside of Keith going back to second, we don't have any long-term options at second base at this current juncture right now. So, But yeah, we got off on a Gleyber Torres
That's good.
Gleyber Torres rant. Let's take a break. We're going to talk about the other team that we're going to be facing after Boston, and then we'll wrap things up. All right, the second team that we'll be facing, and this will be on the road, is the Toronto Blue Jays, who are currently 19-20, hanging on in the AL East, 3 games behind the Yankees. And they had a very heavily desired player that was on our list, and that was Anthony Santander. You know what? Before that, let me grab my charger. I will be right back.
I got you. Yeah, so I'll revisit the pitching matchups while you're doing that. So Boston, Monday. This is all tentative because of the injury with Mize. Things could shift here briefly. So Monday, tentatively right now, we've got Job against Tanner Houck, last year's AL All-Star representative with Boston. Tuesday, we'll see Kiter Montero against Bello. And then the matinee rubber match will have Scooble against to be determined right now for Boston. Friday, as they travel to Rogers Center in Toronto, international trip. Friday will be tentatively Jack Flaherty against Francis. Saturday will be Reese Olson against Urania. And rounding out the rubber match will be Jackson Jobe again, 2 starts in 1 week against Jose Barrios, who had a resurgence here last year after a horrendous 2023, which saw him demoted with roughly somewhere around an 8 or 9 ERA about 3 months into the season.
And you mentioned Jackson Jobe having a nice string of starts. But I know they were kind of slowed down. I feel like they skipped them, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, that long stretch with the Houston and then California, Colorado stretch, they only had like 1 day off over like 17 days. And AJ didn't want to burn his rotation that fast and truly pitching every 5 days for like 3 weeks. He wanted to try and expand them out last year. I want to say it's the same concept they used with Scooble last year when we were kind of going nuts thinking, what are you doing? You've clawed your way into a playoff race, and now you're going to take a Cy Young candidate at the time. You're going to eliminate essentially 3, maybe 4 starts down the stretch because you're only going to pitch them every 6 days instead of 5. Well, they kind of did that with Kiter Montero, and it worked out because the rain out they had with Colorado, having to play a doubleheader, that's kind of worked in their favor in that regard. Otherwise, one of those pitchers would have been pitching on a 4th day's rest instead of 5, which I don't know if that would have flown AJ at this point. I would have assumed he would have just thrown an opener out there and like, screw it. I'm not changing that now, but that's kind of the approach right now. But Montero's going to be a regular in the rotation for the next 3, trips through with Mize on the IL now. So it means someone else in the bullpen, potentially someone down below too, could come up and be that buffer if they need it going forward. But I think they have some more off days built in the schedule.
And did you say that Montero is pitching on Tuesday?
Correct. Right now, he is tentatively slated to pitch against Bello on Tuesday against the Red Sox.
Okay, so that'll be the second time I've seen him pitch. For whatever reason, he's not even really in the rotation, but for whatever reason, every time I go, he's in there. Okay, I wanted to take a look at Anthony Santander. Obviously, we have them coming up next weekend. He is struggling at this current juncture. I'm not sure exactly what that you can attest to that. I mean, he's definitely got some protection in the lineup. I mean, you got the Blue Jays got some good hitters. They got Vlad Guerrero, obviously, who just got extended long term. And I want to say Bo Bichette has kind of bounced back decently. But as it stands right now, he's got 5 home runs. He's hitting 196, OPS of 611, well under the league average. And obviously he's not much of a defensive player. Never was much of a defensive player, but it appears the Tigers have dodged another bullet. There was a lot of guys that we had our eyes on. Goldschmidt, who I don't think is having a very good start to the year. The list kind of goes on, but hey, and then we were able to, although it wasn't a super popular decision, obviously Torres, we've kind of hit on that one, but what do you see any theories or thought process into why Santander is he just hitting his wall at the age of 30, because he was kind of a late bloomer? What do you see?
I think it's a combination of things, and I know we touched on it in some of the off-season shows, and when they were talking about, it got leaked from close friends or those close to the party of Bo Bichette, of how awkward it had become, and he basically told his inner circle, "Fuck this franchise, I'm not resigning, I'm out."
Right.
I told my agent not even to talk about negotiations. We're not going there. I am out. So I think there's a cultural awkwardness right now with some friction in that clubhouse, not even amongst the players. It's just front office and players. So I do think that does take a toll. That's any sport. It's not just limited to baseball. I mean, it can affect your on-field performance and even mentally too, which, you're professional still. You're expected to show up and say the right things and do the right things. But at some point, it can take a toll and really start to impact certain things that lead to, a downward trend like this. So I still think he has some value. I mean, based on those numbers, you can only go up. So don't sleep on him. Don't take him for granted in that series. Sure. We saw him in person last year when Baltimore came to town in September. Granted, we took the series, but it was a hard fought, blow for blow kind of series with them, including I think the one game we went to where Baду walked it off with our boy Marchione when we were there for that game. So don't sleep on him anytime soon. Whether he turns around this year, I don't know. I just think there's other issues going on in that team and that franchise that are playing a greater factor that they normally would elsewhere. So they're still, on paper, it's still a team you don't want to take for granted.
Absolutely. And that is the second series. Obviously, we got the Boston series coming up, but a lot of interesting, polarizing players playing. You got Trevor Story, you got Devers, you got Bregman, is Chris Sale on Boston?
Yeah, he's Atlanta.
Who's
he won the Cy Young
last
Boston?
year? Oh, Crochet.
They just got, yeah. He's also right now with Scooble, probably the 1-2 Cy Young heavy favorites.
Absolutely. And we didn't even talk about is when the great players, they often don't get the shine because they're just kind of like, we're getting used to it. But he had a crazy pitchers duel on Friday that I'm kind of pissed I didn't get a chance to go to. But yeah, that was an interesting game. Did you get a chance to watch that game? Because there was a lot going on with the umpire, and there was.
I saw the highlights. Yeah. And I think it was too, because I was literally watching that specific highlight this morning too, while kind of going over some of our notes. And one thing on that whole exchange with the umpire and Scooble, Dingler did a fantastic job running interference and really getting in the way and taking some of that heat off him, because obviously you got to keep him in the game. And School's not really going to be a guy, unless it's so egregiously bad and a horrendous call. I don't see Scooble putting himself in a position where he's going to get tossed.
Mind you, he had a no-hitter at this point, or no, perfect game.
Perfect game.
I think he ended up going
he went 15 of 15, retired, and then he gave up a single in the first at bat of the sixth inning.
Nah, you would have retired more than that.
No, 3 outs.
Oh no, 3-5. Yeah. I don't know why 15 didn't sound like a lot, but that's a lot.
Yeah, but 15 up, 15 down. I mean, that's almost 2 full times through the lineup. That's the number 7 hitter the second time through in the 6th inning. Got a little, rinky-dink single off of him that squibbled through the infield. But yeah, I mean, He wants it. It's a close. It was 2-0 game at the time,
It was close. Yeah.
So every pitch matters in that aspect. And in a team like Texas with guys that can hit, despite their early struggles, like we mentioned, Peterson and others, they still have, world beater Corey Seager, who absolutely launched one yesterday into the ether. And side note, earlier you mentioned about all the home runs for Flaherty. Every home run in that game yesterday was for both sides was left-handed batter. Weird side note.
Carpenter as well.
Yeah. Both teams collectively, all home runs yesterday were lefty hitters. But yeah, it's a close game. He wanted that call, didn't get it. Younger umpire too back there trying. He's trying to make his stance and not look like a little biatch himself. So
right.
I get it. It's the showmanship at the pro level. It's the entertainment side of it, if you will, and the competitiveness of it. But all in all, you know what? He was able to retire him on the next pitch, and then he retired the next batter after that. So kind of really no harm, no foul kind of deal versus the whole situation where, with Nito in LA was totally different. Nito pimped a home run and stared him down with School not looking at him. And School basically was like, Kate him and then was like, you know what? I can do that too. So, league's taking notice, hey, you hit a homer against Scooble. That's great for you, man. But if you're going to sit there and try and pimp it like that and stare him down, then you better take your medicine when you strike out and go sit your ass on that bench and not be a little prima donna. So, that's the dog in Scooble. And, he wants every call. I get it. Every player wants every call, but
right.
But I digress. Yeah, he is on a roll right now. And I think there was that stat, 50 strikeouts and 1 walk in his last 4 or 5 starts. Crazy. No pitcher or first pitcher in modern history to do something like that. It's crazy. So he's only getting better right now after that kind of slow-ish start for the reigning Cy Young champ.
Yeah, I mean, to have stuff that, explosive, to have that pinpoint control and the ability to, I think he's second in all of baseball behind Green in Cincinnati. What's his first name? Hunter Green in Cincinnati for the most first pitch strikes. So it's going to be a strike that first pitch, no matter what it is, fastball, slide, whatever it is. And you still, you got to jump out on it, which is exactly what Zach Neto did. He jumped on the very first pitch that he saw in the first inning and hit a home run, but you still can't hit it anyways. But you got to love Scooble's fiery competitiveness, but he's still a nice guy at the same time. He apologized when the whole, bench is cleared in LA, he apologized. And even after that, the first hit that he gave up on Friday, he hit the next, it kind of rattled him a little bit because he hit the very next batter that he faced. And then he apologized. He acknowledges the crowd on a standing ovations when he's going to the dugout. Like, he's literally the epitome of who you would want to spend millions and millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars with. So, get it together, Pizza Boy. But I digress. That pretty much wraps up the show. We got Boston coming to town, and then we head off to Toronto after that. Any parting words before we get up out of here, Coach? We are right at the 59-minute mark.
Yeah, I mean, we're continuing to run the stat because I think it might be more imperative now this year than last year. And last year it was different in terms of them getting in. Their record when they score 5 runs or more, they're 20-2 this year when they score 5 runs or more. And the only 2 they lost were both in extras, and they were 8-5 losses after they tied the game. So, and this team is only going to get healthier. Fearling on the mend coming back very soon. Parker's progression continues to go well. I think he said he's throwing 120 feet easily, he said, with some velocity. So now it'll be the emphasis of being able to start stretching it to throw from his center field position, to beyond second base, essentially throwing it to third, throwing it to home. making longer throws, and continuing his hitting progression. So all things so far checking the boxes for Parker to come back, hopefully sometime in the next couple weeks, maybe early June at the latest, potentially. There's real no rush considering where they're at right now. And I know Javi's been playing very good center field and hitting the ball with some more recent power. However, if he's healthy, I don't see any world where he does not come back to the parent club and he ends up going to Toledo instead. He is right now the only 5-tool player on this team. Speed, defense, before he got hurt last year, I think it was June, he was the number 1 defensive war center fielder in all baseball. And I'm sorry, but Javi is never going to be that type of player with range and his arm, let alone his lack of speed, just in comparison to the 1-to-1 guys. But, those 2 guys come back. Like you said, other guys have been rolling in as others have kind of taken a slide. So that too. And then when they don't score 5 runs, they're 6-12. Not as bad as last year, but they've won. I think they've won more games scoring less than 5 runs just because their collective pitching has been so good. So that's the number, the magic number, 5, baby.
Yeah, I think the only other 5-tool player that I can think of is probably Veerling. What'd you say?
To a degree, yeah.
He's fast.
Yep. And
he's got some
they
power.
got another one cooking. Max Clark is right now slowly. Power starting to come around. I don't think he's as power potential, maybe, but who knows? He's only going to get bigger and stronger. Boss.
All right, we out of here.